までぶっ飛ばしてやるぜ。
Caravan-style vertical shooters were a very popular thing in the 80s and 90s, but aren't especially common these days, especially if they aren't remakes of older titles. But wait, caravan vertical shooters? What's that all about? Caravan shooters are shmups that are characterized as typically having the following main features: a huge number of stages with many waves of patterned enemies, a ton of destructible elements in the background, a fairly simple power-up system, and a large amount of secret score points. Later caravan shooters, especially from Hudson, would even incorporate timed score attack modes as well. As far as these games go, what could be the finest example of a modern caravan shooter has to be the Hurricane of Varstray by Studio Siesta. It has all of the elements listed above, but is it really a caravan shooter? Let's take a closer look. Sporting several game modes right at the outset of the game, the Hurricane of Varstray has a huge amount of content for players to mess around with. All game modes play more or less the same, using the same core controls and gameplay features. At game start, players have a choice between 4 different characters, each with a different fire pattern. On the whole, each is similar only with subtle variation in their fire patterns and differences in movement speed between them, but they're all still different enough that players will definitely find a preference between them. Additional characters can also be unlocked by playing through the story mode. The 8-way control at the heart of Varstray's gameplay is about what you'd expect from any vertical shooter of its kind. But, unlike many other caravan shooters, Varstray has a bullet hell edge that makes fine-tuned movement a necessity. At times when slower movement speed is needed, holding the R1 button on an Xbox 360 pad will focus the player's rate of speed. Firing the main shot is as simple as pressing and holding the A button. The player's main shot can be leveled up to a maximum level of 3 by uncovering and collecting power-ups. At maximum power, the player's fire will resemble the maximum pattern in Star Soldier, complete with backward-firing shots. But that's not all. Players can also uncover and collect special weapons as well. Javelin-style lasers, homing beams, and area effect bombs can be used to great effect when the going gets tough. Especially in the case of the homing shots, these weapons can deal a ton of damage in a short amount of time. The X button fires these weapons while the Y button cycles through the collected ones that are available. More weapons can be unlocked as the story mode is completed more and more. However, the most important weapon of all is the Baryon laser, a super powerful beam that not only vaporizes or heavily damages enemies, but also their shots. This cannon is charged simply by defeating enemies. As its green gauge on the right-hand side of the screen charges, it also offers a layer of defense as well. At certain levels of charge, a shield is enabled that allows a player to get hit by an enemy shot without dying. This will deplete the gauge significantly and will require the gauge to be charged again for either the shield or the cannon to be operable. When the Baryon laser is fired, massive beams will flood the screen in a huge radius of effect. Care should be taken though, as getting hit while the Baryon laser is engaged will cancel it out. Killing enemies and nullifying their shots will cause enemies to drop gold medals, which fill a red secondary gauge for a weapon known as the Grabuster. This insanely powerful technique turns the player's whole ship into a stupid powerful, hyper-fast, invincible weapon that makes short work of everything it touches. This attack is only brief though, with its time remaining indicated by an on-screen counter. Special pickups also exist to charge the Baryon laser and Grabuster gauges. The Hurricane of Varstray's main story mode and arcade mode are both tremendously long. With 12 plus stages for the story mode and a total of 26 over 2 loops for arcade, there is quite a bit of gameplay to chew through. The story mode also offers different perspectives for each of the selectable characters and even adds more characters to the roster as they are encountered, which will boost the replay tremendously. The main difference between these two modes is simply that arcade mode lacks the in-between stages back and forth between Varstray's girls. In addition to the main arcade and story modes, a nice selection of time attack and special condition score attack stages are also available for players to take on Varstray for a chance at online leaderboard glory. On the whole, the Hurricane of Varstray is very playable, with flexible, very lengthy, and most of all, pretty fun gameplay. With a very approachable challenge even on normal difficulty, even novice players will be able to make noticeable progress with very little in the way of practice. Of course, with the score attack aspects in all modes, there's also all kinds of great scoring mechanics that further identify the Hurricane of Varstray as a legitimate caravan shooter. Like many caravan shooters before it, the Hurricane of Varstray has a ton of ways to score high. Not only does it sport all kinds of destructible elements, enemies, and secrets galore, there's also a much more in-depth consistent scoring system as well. A player's score will definitely soar with the amount of enemies and background elements to blast away, but a much better way to rack up the points is by way of the Baryon laser and Grabuster. The medals that result from the Baryon laser add a nice amount of pointage on their own, but when the Grabbuster is engaged, enemies destroyed by the Grabbuster will also have their shots cancelled as well. These enemies will then drop multiplier bonus medals which range between 32 and 512 times. Better still, all of the cancelled bullets will also be converted to a sometimes ridiculous amount of medals as well. Knowing where to use the Grabbuster can make for a disgusting amount of points. All the while, secret score points can be discovered when shooting at certain points in any given stage. There are 6 points in each stage that, once uncovered, will award players with a higher and higher score, up to 2 million points. Another such bonus will award a substantial amount of pointage for uncovering a small character portrait, and there's one hidden in each stage. Killing certain large enemies in a set amount of time can also yield a wicked 20 million point bonus, and collecting sub-weapons and power-ups beyond max power grants a bonus of 80,000 points each time. At stage end, a 1,000,000 point bonus is awarded for a no-miss clear, with another 1,000,000 awarded for a no-damage clear if the shield wasn't used. Additional points for the amount of times the Baryon laser is fired, as well as the lives remaining in the stock, rounds out the end stage bonus. Another sizable score bonus can be achieved when all of the batteries that are shooting at you on a boss are destroyed. This can be done several times in a single boss encounter, and can make up quite a bit of pointage if a player is careful. The vast majority of these score mechanics apply to the timed and single-stage score attack modes as well. In addition, online leaderboards for every mode and difficulty level also exist, so players of every level can play and compete against other players of the same skill. All in all, the scoring in the Hurricane of Varstray ends up feeling exceptionally satisfying thanks to the huge amount of enemies, bonuses, and secrets. It definitely complements its smooth gameplay and adds even more replay to the huge amount of existing content that Varstray offers. Having a ton of content to play through in the Hurricane of Varstray is all well and good, but the best shmups based on ages-old mechanics have serious polish to keep things looking and sounding fresh. Thankfully, Varstray has a fairly great sense of style that's constant throughout the whole game. Varstray's 2D visuals are super sharp and crystal clear. You can see everything happening on screen with very little difficulty, including enemies and their shots. The fairly high resolution also allows for a huge amount of destructible background elements as well. All the while, amazing backdrops and good mechanical design give each stage a good amount of personality. A super clean UI also allows players to navigate the game and keep track of their accomplishments from stage to stage easily as well. However, the character design leaves a bit to be desired, as the main characters definitely have a style that feels pretty amateurish when compared to the rest of the game. The bosses seem a bit uninspired too, but still end up being pretty fun to take on. Sound-wise, Varstray's music does a very good job of setting the scene, whether in the story mode's cutscenes or in the stages themselves. Great sound effects also complement the soundtrack, with great weapon effects, explosions, and score jingles. Combine that with what we thought was well-delivered VO, and there's really never a dull moment. Which brings us to the actual story. On the whole, the story is cohesive and understandable, but not in an especially great way. On the one hand, there are a ton of translation errors and awkward sentence structure throughout the whole of the game's script. That alone could be overlooked if the kind of profanity that's also present wasn't so frequent or misused. The whole game could have really gone with 0 F-bombs altogether, much less the many phrases that could get us struck down on YouTube just for repeating them. There's also another huge problem with it all too. The long story bits between some sets of stages can take for freaking ever to get through, with no way to speed up the text. Players with less patience are sure to skip these scenes. As always, Steam leaderboards round out the rest of Varstray's presentation, but strangely no achievements exist for this game. On the whole, it all still works out pretty good, but how does it stack up? Let's take a look. Varstray's control is intuitive and very swift, but maybe just a touch too fast. The shield mechanic balances this out nicely, but the movement still makes a no damage stage bonus a challenge. Getting a 1cc on normal difficulty is definitely doable on the first 13 stage set, but a 1-all is much more challenging. Higher difficulties are also available for players that want a little more kick. With a total of 26 stages over 2 loops, score attack modes, and online leaderboards for everything, Varstray has a ton of length to it. The story mode felt way too drawn out though. Varstray's 2D visuals are sharp, detailed, and vibrant, and the effects used throughout make Varstray look pretty amazing from start to finish. As good as the UI and gameplay looks though, the character design left a lot to be desired. The Hurricane of Varstray definitely has some solid sound as well. A fantastic OST sets the stage for the action throughout. Varstray's VO and sound effects are also well delivered and produced. As far as ingenuity goes, the Hurricane of Varstray does caravan shooting very right with an updated system that brings this very old style of vertical shooter to the modern stage. Its main modes of play with unlockable characters demonstrate both how far caravan shooters have come, while offering a wide array of game modes and a robust story to the mix. Not being able to speed up some text is a terrible misstep though. The Hurricane of Varstray is a game that fans of caravan-style shooters will definitely dig, with some recent titles like Ghostblade promising and subsequently failing to deliver a proper caravan gameplay style or traditional timed modes. It's good that someone out there is doing things the right way, at least on a technical level. The story mode adds a lot of replay, but ultimately didn't especially deliver. Despite this, the Hurricane of Varstray gets a 4.5 out of 5. You can get a copy of the Hurricane of Varstray today on Steam for about $10 US. This episode of Bullet Heaven was made with a downloadable copy of the game purchased on Steam. The opinions expressed are our own and are not paid for by developers, publishers, retailers, or resellers in any way.